Many of us seem to live lives of ridiculous failure. And from what I understand, that failure may be seen as a portal, some kind of opening into another realm. From what I understand, there is one who fails. And what is that failure? Who made the standard? There's a subjective measuring stick, right? That was created by who? By whom? It was made by the same one who perceives himself to have failed. Yes? That's the crazy thing about the false self, the ego, is that it is fragmented. And the same one who failed is the one who made up the standard for failure, or the standard for success. And maybe we believe that we didn't make that up, that it was made up by our culture or our family. Or maybe we believe that our measurements of success are true and right, and that they were given to us by God. Maybe a sacred text, possibly, is what established our standard for success. But who was it really that established that standard for success in ourselves? Because everything that we've ever read or experienced was filtered through this lens of self. Yes? What is the standard for success that is created by God? Who is God? And how do we know God? And if we are to receive messages from God, messages that establish our standard for success, then how have we received those? Yes, many of us have become ridiculous failures. Many of us judge ourselves harshly. We might talk about a spiritual practice, but what does that mean, really? What is a spiritual practice? I've been awake for some time now, and I'm talking about in a very literal sense. Like, I woke up a couple of hours ago. It's early morning still, and I've been sometimes laying in this bed, sometimes sitting up, And I've been processing, experiencing, sometimes observing many thoughts and many emotions that seem to be passing through this consciousness of mine. I notice that sometimes these thoughts and these emotions are very alienating, very judging. I'm watching this man who thinks that he suffers, who believes that he suffers, who tells a story of suffering and failure and loss. Sometimes it seems that I am that man who is suffering. Sometimes it seems that I am actively engaged in creating the stories of suffering and loss and failure. Sometimes I think I am that being who has failed. And other times, there is a more compassionate being who seems to be observing that man who is thinking and feeling. And today, this is what my spiritual practice is like. It's a matter of choice. There are many sacred texts. There are many ancient practices. And then now there are hundreds, thousands of self-help books written by people who believe they have a way of viewing life and understanding life and relating to themselves and others that is a form of salvation. That's basically what a self-help book is, right? Someone who has had some kind of experience that has worked for themselves, and they're trying to pass that experience along. Yes? And in all these contexts, the sacred texts, the ancient practices, the self-help books, the groups that we join to try to help ourselves or to try to connect, the yoga that we do, the exercise, all of these activities and ways of being that we subscribe to, these all amount to our spiritual practice. The way that we lay in bed with ourselves as we wake in the early morning. This is our spiritual practice. The ways in which we choose or seem to not choose the unconscious ways in which we relate to ourselves. These are all our practices.